There's something pretty interesting about the old Peace update that most of us didn't notice at first. Digital Extremes shared a lot during the last dev stream, but it turns out there are some important details they didn't really bring up. These aren't story teasers or small patch notes. These are quality of life changes, new rewards, and new items that will affect how we farm, how we build our gear, and maybe even how we play every day. And honestly, the more I dig into this, the more exciting it gets. So today, I want to go through all of it and explain why these quiet changes might have a bigger impact than the stuff DE actually showcased on stream. Before we get into the flashy stuff like operators, the new Warframe, or the next game mode, I want to start with a Reddit post that confirms there's more coming with the old Peace than what was shown live. A developer working directly on the update confirmed additional details that weren't discussed on stream. These include new items, new farming incentives, and big reductions to some of the most hated grinds in the game. Some of these changes save players from literal hours or even days of farming, especially if you're someone who hates feeling locked out of gear. Now, the most eye-catching part of these extra details points straight towards something even bigger: new Arcanes. This is where things get wild, because if Warframe is giving us a whole wave of new Arcanes, that means we're likely getting new build options, new damage scaling, and possibly some absurd bonuses that completely shake the meta. If history repeats itself, DE doesn't introduce weak Arcanes during huge updates like this. The last time we got a big set, they changed how people mod and play forever. So there's a real chance that even a few of these will redefine the strongest builds in the game. And if these Arcanes are as strong as they sound, there's one big question: where do we farm them? The most likely answer is either the new operation launching with the old Peace, or the new Descendia game mode, which is clearly set up as a long-term reward farm. Just like Incarnon weapons came from Steel Path Circuit, Descendia might become the new meta farming hotspot. If new Arcanes drop there, players won't just try the mode, they'll live in it. And honestly, that's exactly how DE designs game modes that last, which leads us right into what Descendia actually is. Descendia is basically a brand new challenge mode that mixes modifiers, lore elements, and team-focused mechanics without being brutally punishing. You can jump in, earn rewards, push deeper if you want, and get something of value whether you play casually or competitively. It has that endgame flavor, but without locking out players. If DE ties heavy-hitting Arcanes to it, Descendia could become the next big farming destination, the same way Sanctuary Onslaught and Arbitrations used to define the grind. Now let's move from something new to something finally being fixed: the Entrati Syndicate grind. If you've ever farmed this faction, you know the pain. It wasn't the worst grind in Warframe, but there were moments where it felt like you were trapped collecting rare resources that nobody really wants to farm. And the worst offender was the Seriglass Shard, a resource so annoyingly expensive that some players avoided crafting items they actually wanted. Well, that nightmare is finally getting a cost reduction. This change alone removes a massive bottleneck that slowed both new and veteran players for months. It's one of those updates that isn't flashy, but it literally makes Warframe better to play. What really makes this change important is how Seriglass Shards were required to craft some of the most unique and iconic weapons from Deimos: the Quasis, the Sepulchrum, and the Trumna. These aren't weak or forgettable weapons. The Trumna is one of the best heavy weapons for gun builds. The Sepulchrum has unique auto headshot mechanics and strong scaling, and the Quasis is a fan-favorite melee with stylish waves and status power. Yet many players skip them, not because they weren't worth using, but because the Seriglass cost made crafting them feel like a punishment. Now that Digital Extremes is lowering the cost, these weapons finally become accessible without the headache. Newer players won't get blocked from trying out powerful gear, and veterans can finally build that weapon they've been eyeing for months without feeling robbed. This update encourages everyone to experiment more, use more of the arsenal, and enjoy builds instead of dreading resource walls. It's a small change on paper, but in practice, it opens the door for more players to craft some of Warframe's most exciting gear without waiting or avoiding the grind. With that change, the Entrati Syndicate suddenly becomes reasonable. Newer players won't get stuck behind ridiculous crafting walls, and veterans can finally finish things without feeling punished. This is the kind of quality of life change that you can't hype up on a dev stream, but long term, it might be one of the most appreciated fixes in the entire update. So when you look at the old piece as a whole, we're not just getting a quest, we're getting new farming systems, new rewards, new arcanes, reduced grind walls, and a mode that might become the new home for endgame farming. All of this stacks on top of lore, new operators, new story progression, and the build-up toward the Tau system. It's not just a content drop, it's a shift in how we play Warframe day to day. I just want to take a moment to say thank you for staying with me on this channel. Most of what I share here are my thoughts and reactions about Warframe, and the fact that you're still here listening, watching, and talking with me about the game means more than I can ever explain. I'm not a big content creator, and I don't try to act like one. I just love this game, and I love sharing it with people who understand why it matters to us. Right now, we're entering a new era in Warframe. The old piece is setting the stage for something huge, and next year, we're finally heading toward the Tau system. That's the kind of moment we all hoped for years ago, and seeing that so many of you are still here with me for that journey is honestly amazing. Whether you've been here since day one or you just found the channel, I appreciate you more than you know. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you for watching, for commenting, for sharing your ideas, for disagreeing respectfully, for laughing with me, and for just showing up. Warframe is always growing, evolving, and surprising us, and I'm honored to experience it with all of you. I'm excited for what's beyond Tau, and I'm grateful I get to go there with this community by my side. I'm curious, though, what do you think is waiting for us in the Tau system? We've only heard bits and pieces for years, but this is where the sentience came from. This is where the war technically started. If Warframe is moving the story forward after so long, then Tau isn't just another star chart. It's a place built around something completely different from anything we've seen in the Origin system. New factions, new history, maybe even technology that makes everything we know feel outdated. Imagine a whole environment shaped by sentient architecture, with landscapes that adapt like living machines, or wildlife twisted into biomechanical forms. Maybe Tau has enemies that evolve during missions, or weapons and gear that rewrite how our builds work. What if we finally learn who built the sentience, and why they broke away from humanity? There's so much mystery there, and that's what excites me the most. So, I want to know what you think. What are your predictions? How do you imagine Tau will look, feel, and play when we finally get there?